What is going on YouTube? This is Acider. So I'm going to review a 2006 mixtape by T.I. Basically this project is called Gangsta Grillz The Leak and it came out in the winter of 2006. The thing about this particular project is really the album King from early 2006 leaked earlier in 2006 and T.I. compiled those particular songs that were meant for King and decided to distribute them in a free Gangsta Grillz mixtape, which is a pretty awesome concept just because sometimes when albums leak by artists, they don't necessarily keep the songs or they scrap them and you never hear them as far as pitches like that. It may not have been every single song that wound up on this particular product, but this is definitely a pretty bulky mixtape here. It has 26 songs minus the 6 skits that narrows it down to 20, but a lot of these are just uncommon. The thing about this particular mixtape, so I'm going to go ahead and say this is a classic mixtape here. This is one of the better mixtapes, if not one of the best mixtapes out of the 2000s decade. And I would definitely have to say that T.I. and DJ Drama with like affiliates PSC and Young Dro and some of them, XC, some of those type folks, Mac Boney, some of them particularly really knocked this particular mixtape out of the park. Just some excellent type of appeal. This overall blitz of a project just has tons of new songs, more so than an average Gangsta Grillz tape, I'd have to say in particular. Just really excessively good. Basically, this would easily kind of be like a bonus King package as far as that pitch kind of happened. If you do love the King album from early 2006 by T.I. with hit songs like What You Know and Why You Wanna and Top Back on there and some of those type pitches, Live in the Sky, this definitely has some extra content just on that T.I. particular tip that he was on from early 2006 when he was in his stride back in those particular days. Because that's definitely, King is definitely one of T.I.'s biggest albums. It's just a good packaging to kind of get some more content around that particular time, because that's definitely some primary T.I. I'd have to say in particular. So it's an excellent concept here. It just has plenty of those. It even has a few radio ready numbers on here. It's an excellent concept that T.I. was pretty commercial around this time. It wasn't like he was just doing buzz songs, pitches like that. He was actually pretty breakthrough on like his 2004 album Urban Legend. So some more pitches like that, plus his 2005 PSC album 25 to Life, some of those type pitches. So it's just some good content here. Really works out extremely well. There's some early variations. Now, because this was called The Leak, there are some early variations of songs that were meant for King, but a lot of these are pretty new and just scrap songs that just never saw the light anywhere else. So it's just basically like you're getting bona fide type content. Now, there is at least one song that I'm going to count in terms of like some of the songs that were meant for King that I'm going to count as like a new song just because front, back, side to side. Originally just had Bun B on there, but when Pimp C got released from prison in like late 2005, early 2006, T.I. threw him on that song as well just to reunite UGK, which is a pretty awesome concept. One of the few songs that T.I. did with UGK before Pimp C passed, as far as that pitch went, it was just a good concept. Kind of get that. Just appreciate that particular concept. But the original song, the way it was in like earlier in 2005 before Pimp C was released, was basically Bun B and T.I. doing like verse 3 back and forth as far as that pitch can happen. So some good concepts with that, but I'm not going to have a description for that song, but it is basically a relatively new rendition of that particular song if you know that song from King. But there's not really any singles from this particular mixtape, but it is a pretty sheer and a visceral type one. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this mixtape is going to get a 10 out of 10 because out of 20 songs on here, minus the 6 skits, there's 26 songs on here, minus the 6 skits, there's 20. And out of those 20, I'll end up recommending 18. So the only 2 songs I don't recommend in any fashion would just be Mac Boney's Through the City and then like the Dip Slide Ride Out song with Big Country King and Young Dro as far as that pitch kind of happens. Now the Dip Slide Ride Out song is also on the DJ Khaled 2006 album as far as pitches like that kind of happen. Didn't really appreciate that one as much. Just didn't really have a ferocious enough production. I don't remember if I recommended that song when I reviewed that DJ Khaled album back in 2023, but I would have to say it's a relative good pitch, possibly, but I don't remember what I particularly gave it. But on this particular mixtape, it wasn't that thrilling. I had to say it was just kind of a flatter type production on here that just didn't really have that appeal. And then Mac Boney's Through the City was just kind of a clumsy type one. It was trying to be like an in-between type song, just standard breeze type fare, just evening type fare as far as pitches like that kind of happened. But T.I. just nailed those vibes a little bit better. So that one was just kind of a poor type one. But I do want to say that Mac Boney probably has some mixtapes out there, so I'm gonna have to get to some of those. He's pretty good on like the Pimp. He's pretty good on like the PSC projects, but that was just not a good showcase of that particular song. But it's a decent, I mean, I would say it's not a horrid bop, it's just kind of concept. It's just more in between. I'd have to say just kind of more pedestrian, I'd have to suppose. It's just kind of an extra type one if you do need some more standard cuts to kind of have. But yeah, basically every other song I recommend in some fashions. Basically out of the remaining 18 songs on here, 5 of those are to be found on the album King, which I just recommend purchasing the album King as far as pitches like that kind of happen. So those 5 songs, maybe not all of them are on King, but they're just on like Young Dro's album pitches like that. So basically those songs would be Young Dro and Ecstasy's 100 Yards, which is on Young Dro's album, and then Stand Up Guy, which is actually like another Young Dro song, which I want to say It's like the first song. I forget what it's called, but it's like at the beginning of the song when he talks about saying Jackie Chan, the trunk out like Jackie Chan, it kicks like Jackie Chan. I forget the name of that particular song. It's a pretty nice one. Maybe it's They Don't Really Know About Dro, don't really remember, but it's on Young Dro's album. I Told You So, Live in the Sky, and Ride with Me are also on the particular T.I. album from 2006, Kings. That's some good concepts as far as that particular kind of happens. But most of this is really new, so that's just kind of the concept about it. So talk about the 13 songs I do recommend on here, which would actually be 12 just because it would actually be 12 songs I recommend just because Front Back is actually on the King album, but like I said, that has Bun B and T.I. just on New Verses, which was replaced with Pimp C later. So basically 12 songs that are new that are not on any other project I recommend here. Now, some of these, if you do manage to pick up like the Japanese edition of King or pitches like that, or like the deluxe edition of King on iTunes, some of those type pitches, you can find a few songs that are kind of circulating around. There's like standard 18, 19 songs on like King on like a normal edition, but like songs like drug related and if songs like drug related and You Ain't Fly, some of those type ones can kind of be found floating around in other patches of like the T.I. King album, just in other circulations of it. So it's just kind of a good concept. If you are a collector, you might have found some of those songs. But most of these, it is easier rather than try to track down those particular albums just to kind of get this particular mixtape because it's got some excellent stuff. But basically, Drug Related is a pretty nice one. It's like a vintage kind of soulful Don Cannon mixtape buzz of a song that has the same particular. It's like a vanilla hustle music, I would feel like, the standard cut for that particular fare. And this is like some basic outs, I would have to say, just kind of out and about, just standard Traverse pitches like that, getting some tasks done, just getting things taken care of, buy some stands, get cell phone bills paid, pitches like that. I'd have to suppose in particular, just some good concepts, kind of have some of that. Basically, just like T.I.'s rendition of that same sort of Lil Wayne and Jeezy type mixtape, soulful type fare that they would do on their mixtapes. More East Coast kind of sounding, more soulful, just within that 70s type tip of like 70s samplage pitches like that. But it is a pretty nice one. Do like that song. Definitely a pretty good gem there. A real nice song on here is Fresh. Do appreciate this one quite a bit. This is like a good TIP rendition of like snap rap noise. I would definitely have to say for him doing that. This has like a ringtone feel, I would definitely have to say. And this is like a nice low key kind of nightclub buzz of a song, I would definitely feel like. Yeah, Fresh definitely has some of that TI type snap appeal. I'd have to say in particular, it's a good concept kind of see him on some of that particular fare as far as that would kind of happen. He doesn't do it too much. He wasn't really doing too much of ringtone rap back in 2005, 2006, but it's a good concept to see him at least mesh a little bit with that particular sound. Like folks like Shoddy Low, Fabo, some of those type folks, and like Young Jock, some of those type folks. Just a good rendition, kind of get some of that. I do like ringtone rap. T.I. is a pretty good concept. Old School is a pretty nice one. This is kind of like a secret PSC type song. Definitely appreciate the concept that you get some leftover PSC cuts because relatively the PSC album from late 2005 was still pretty fresh in folks' mind around that particular time. So you do get a couple gems like that on here, which is a good concept just because PSC kind of dried up after about 2006 after like the song Bankhead and pitches like that. Although I do want to say they might have had some other projects, but I don't know how much further they lasted past like late 2006, I'd have to say. But yeah, Old School is pretty nice because it has Mike Jones on there. So Mike Jones actually shouts out PSC on the song. So it's an actual official song that PSC members. T.I. is not on this song, but there are a couple PSC members with Mike Jones on here, which is a pretty good pitch just because it wasn't really known as much that T.I. collaborated with Mike Jones. It felt like they never really crossed paths, but apparently they did. So Old School is like a good secret PSC Mike Jones collab, I would have to say. Like, no, definitely had to say. And it's like a night outing gem, I would feel like. And this like a residential cruise type music, I'd have to suppose. And it's like a good one to toke up to, I would definitely feel like. So just some kind of local errand running pitches like that, just standard fare, just kind of out and about, just Traverse type fare, just within pitches like that, just getting some snacks, drive through Popeyes, some of that type fare, just token a little bit, getting some swishers, some of those type tones. Basic kind of nightclub noise, just a real sparkly type production kind of get on here. Some real good flash and pizzazz for some of these PSC members, and Mike Jones just works pretty well. Another good PSC song on here is Who Them Boys. Really appreciate this one. It's like a basic kind of nightclub noise, I'd have to say about this particular one. This reminds me of like the 2005 Carter 2 Days songs like Money on My Mind, songs like Hustlin' by Rick Ross, some of those type ones. It just feels like, I forget who produced those, like a Runners type beat, some of those type fares feels like Lil Wayne from like Like Father Like Sundays, some of those type pitches, just standard songs like Hustlin' and Money on My Mind, some of those type pitches by Lil Wayne and Rick Ross, some of those type folks. And this is like a good jittery heat of a song on that same particular. So it's a good concept, kind of get some of that. This really feels ripped out of 2005, 2006. Good concept. Do like the snaps of this particular song. T.I. once again is not on the song either, but it's a good example, good display of PSC as far as some of these type of songs kind of happen. So I do appreciate some of these type ones. Yeah, it's basically too bad that there weren't more PSC moments. I mean, the more you look, you'll be able to find more PSC type moments because they did do more than was oftenly shown. For the most part, most people probably only know them for the hit song "I'm a King" and maybe like "Do Ya Thing," some of those type ones, some of those type tunes. The second single, or I forget some of the singles on the second and third single off the PSC album, but for the most part, I would say probably the majority, I'd probably say the majority of folks probably only know PSC for "I'm a King" pitches like that, but they do have other singles off that particular project, and they do have other songs like some of these right here. So it's some good, excellent concepts. I would definitely have to. Yeah, PSC does have like a second and third single off their 25 to Life album from 2005, and they do have other songs like some of these here. So it's a pretty excellent concept to get some of these. Definitely appreciate the PL. Definitely appreciate the PLTI pushing this group further as far as pitches like that kind of having just some excellent type stuff. Pimp Squad Click is pretty flat. I'd say good concepts for that. If You Really Want, that's a pretty nice tune by Ecstasy. I'd have to say in particular, it's like a trap girl kind of ringtone like turn up of a song. I would definitely feel like this like a synthy kind of gnarled dance jumper. I would have to suppose in particular, and this is a pretty hot song. So Ecstasy is a chica that was part of Grand Hustle as far as the pitch happens. She was mainly just more on like the group collaboration projects by T.I. and Grand Hustle, some of those type pitches. Like she was kind of on like the late 2006 Grand Hustle album In the Streets Volume 4, which is a pretty good pitch. I think she had a song like called Take Me to the Mall or something like that. She's kind of like the banner chica for Grand Hustle as far as pitches like that kind of happen. She did a couple songs with Young Dro, I think, on like his 2006 album. So she's more low key. I don't think she popped up as full blown on like T.I.'s albums, but she was a lot more low key. She never put out an album. She might have some mixtapes. This will have to check some of those out. But this is like a ringtone ready type trap girl type tune. I would definitely suppose pretty good concept to kind of get that. Do like some of this buzz. Is some trap girl noise pitches like that for folks that do kind of get turned up quite a bit to folks like Young Jock and Young Dro and like D Pharrell, folks like that, and can list more than 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 of some of their songs pitches like that. I'd say so. It's a good concept. I do appreciate that one. We Pimpin's a pretty nice one. I like some of these T.I. and Sleepy Brown type songs. Also on the PSC Gangsta Grillz tape, The Indictment, which I reviewed back in May. T.I. did a song with Sleepy Brown, which is a pretty decent one. That was like a more hustle type tune, but this is a pretty nice one as well. It's like a dreary kind of summer haze of a song. I'd feel like this is pretty similar to like Trap Music Days by T.I. Some of those kind of more baseball game organ type music type tunes, just with Sleepy Brown in the mix. That's in particular. He has a pretty dreary hook and background vocals on that particular song, and this is just like some good outdoor type push. I suppose it's a real dreary kind of lazy August day pitches like that, lazy late July day, some of those type fares, just standard relative summer haze of just smoking like a real relaxed swisher to something real good kickback, just basic kind of hangout type fare, just lazy relative summer blear, I'd have to suppose in particular. Decent kind of mellow cruise out type music. Grand Hustle Radio is a pretty nice one. This one's pretty similar to like Drug Related, some of that Don Cannon type fare. It's like a vintage kind of Don Cannon DJ drama mixtape snarl, I'd have to say about this one. This definitely has some lyrical edge. This is a PSC type song that T.I. is actually on, so it's a pretty good pitch to kind of get this one in particular. And it's like a get stuff done type song, I'd have to say. This is another errands type song. There are some bustling type songs in here. I feel like there's some certain ones, like Drug Related's like that. I feel like Grand Hustle Radio's like that. There's some other ones on here. Yeah, just relative ones like that. But some of these type ones just have some of that Travers type appeal. It's just a relative pitch to kind of get some of that in particular. It's standard kind of mixtape snap that you've heard from like PSC, Jeezy, some of those type folks as far as that particular kind of happens. It's real soulful type snap. I like this particular production on here on Grand Hustle Radio. I don't know if this has been like a previously used instrumental. I feel like I've heard this particular beat before, but this might be an original type one. But it definitely has some of that vintage kind of Don Cannon DJ drama type appeal about it. So it's just kind of a concept. It's something that you would probably have heard Lil Wayne rap to back in 2006, Dedication, 2 Days, pitches like that. Just a good concept. Nice. Like the fact that T.I. was on the song, pitches like that. Real good Aaron song. I Can't Help It's a pretty nice bop on here. It's like a jazzy kind of pop rap snarl of a song I had to say in particular. It's like a commercial kind of radio ready jingle, I would definitely have to say. And it's like a dance club ammo. This song is definitely some dance club ammo, I would have to say in particular. And it's a pretty hot beat and song I'd overall have to say. So it's just a nice one. This is kind of like an early taste of like T.I.'s Paper Trail days from like the Whatever You Like and Live Your Life type days. This with the more 2006 type edge as far as that particular kind of one. I do like some of these commercial type ones. This really just has like that. When I was talking about earlier in this review how T.I. kind of had like some good pop rap type ones, or at least some ones that had some commercial snap about it, this is a good example of one. Really do appreciate the vibrant kind of club pizzazz of this particular one. It's a pretty ladies ready type one, but it's also pretty one, but it also has some pretty good edginess about it. It's basically like maybe like a primer for like a hit single like What You Know. Maybe not as ringtone ready and as much of a monolith as that particular song, but definitely like a good buzz single or like a promo single that probably could have been something to have kicked off some bigger singles off off of like T.I.'s albums. Thing about like I Can't Help It is just the fact that it feels like an album quality cut. So this is definitely one that probably could have been like a decent album cut or buzz single on like that particular album King, just within the concept of this pretty awesome that it wound up being free on a mixtape. So it's a good concept for that. T.I. collaborates with the R&B artist from Grand Hustle. T.I. collaborates with the R&B artist from Grand Hustle, Governor, a number of times. Flies Me is one of those type ones. And this is a pretty nice one. It's like an evening kind of buzz of a song, I'd have to say in particular. It's like a basic kind of in-between supplies tune. I would definitely have to suppose get the T's crossed, dot the I's, and pitches like that. I would definitely have to suppose. And it's like some good night hustle of a song, I'd have to say. Is some standard out and about. This is another one of those ones like I was talking about, like Grand Hustle Radio and drug related. Some of those type ones that just kind of have some of that, get some stuff done, pitches like that. Just standard, just out and about, got stuff to do, get the bills paid, cell phone bill, water bill, electric bill, some of those type pitches. Just being able to say some of that. Just get ends tied, laced, pitches like that as far as that kind of goes. But I do feel like some of these just kind of keep like a relative recreational bustle about them, or at least, I mean, they may be driven, but it's just kind of the concept. I do feel like maybe there's swishers in your car, pitches like that. You might be picking up like some Crown Royal around the way, some of that type fare to standard basic concept of just getting ready. I mean, I noticed that this particular album, apart from songs like I Can't Help It and maybe Grand Hustle Radio, some of those type pitches, and Fresh, some of those type ones, I'd have to say for the most part, the nightclub pizzazz and overall sheer blistering type appeal songs that were on T.I.'s King album, maybe in a lighter supply here, but there are some moments that do have, like, this is basically like a mini album here. It's just kind of the concept that just has more hustle kind of in mind, but I like the concept of some of these relative pop-off type ones, but it's just something to notice that it is somewhat of a driven project, but it's not to complain about. I mean, this mixtape is getting a 10 out of 10, but just the sheer amount of songs, if you really do like the nightclub bounce of songs like Fresh and I Can't Help It and some of those type pitches, it's kind of in a lighter supply, but I would still have to say in particular, it's a pretty jivey and overall fun project. It's just kind of distributed in different kind of pitches as far as that kind of goes, but there's some nice ones. Do You Really Want Me is a pretty nice one. It's like a lazy kind of summer stretcher of a song, I'd have to say. Is like a good contrast to Why You Wanna off of T.I.'s King album, I would definitely have to say, and it's a pretty simmering bop, I'd have to suppose. This one's like a more lazy type fare, one of those summer stretchers that just kind of lasts for like a good while, just standard ladies summer flirting as far as that pitch kind of goes, just standard just warm day, hot out type activity pitches like that, standard relaxer type kickback, I'd have to suppose. There's some good concepts as far as that particular kind of happens. You appreciate the appeal of this. I definitely feel like a song like this was probably necessary for T.I.'s King album, just because there weren't a ton of songs with that sort of boisterous kind of appeal of like a summer, this complete blistering kind of hit like Why You Wanna, apart from songs like that. I mean, I want to say, T.I. was more composed and sophisticated on King with songs like Hello with Governor and some of those type ones, but I feel like this is just like a real neighborhood kind of localized type, this lazy kind of housebound type energy is Do You Really Want Me. Just some good pitches for that, just good concept for a mixtape type for another good highlight. I don't remember if I talked about Do You Remember, but I am going to mention this one. I don't remember if I talked about Do You Remember, but I'm going to mention this one again if I have. So this pretty good concept here. It's like a basic evening dredge of a song, I'd have to say in particular. It's like some summer nostalgia, I would definitely have to say, and it's like a basic kind of day fare, smoke a real good one type pitch, just about that, and cruise around as far as pitches like that kind of go. Just simple kind of bop, just standard day activity, reminiscing a little bit, just concepts of back when and pitches like that. Just a good relative pitch, just kind of reflecting on growth and pitches like that as far as that particular kind of happens. It's a great one to smoke a few to, just pitches like that. Good standard fare. And then You Ain't Fly is a pretty nice one. It's like a basic kind of evening noise of a song I'd have to say in particular. It's like some simple kind of club banter, I would definitely have to say. It's like some money talk, definitely to talk about this particular song. It's like a decent jive one high, I would have to say about this particular one. So this one just feels like one good. I mean, the content of this song, if you're not with the power talk and pitches like that, it's just a pretty good concept to smoke a little bit to this. Just some evening kind of banter as far as pitches like that kind of happen. Just basic club turn up type noise. It's a little bit of like a club song, maybe like a minor dance hit within the concept of it. Has a little bit of jive about it in particular, but it's just not one that's just full blown riveting. Not as full blown riveting and carnivorous, I'd have to say, but it is a relative good concept. But I do feel like nowadays it would be interesting to kind of have T.I. talk about this song in today's format, just to kind of say to some folks, I don't know if T.I. would agree to wanting to talk about squares that, that I might have to say would be square like, but just, more folks that just, it just feels like for the most part T.I. feels like the squares that he just doesn't relate to, the folks that just don't have money. But to talk about like folks that are just not hip to smoking or pitches like that, or just kind of more sticks in the mud type folks, it would have been a good concept to kind of have some folks just within other formats apart, to complain about apart from just folks that don't have money, which is a relative concept. But that's this kind of thing. Not like there's problem with sober activities, but it would have been a good concept to have seen what T.I. thinks of folks that just don't smoke pitches like that, some of those type fairs. But it is a good concept. So you ain't fly. All these particular type ones really hit pretty heavily, I'd have to say. I'm trying to think if I missed out on any other type ones. I think that about covers it. So yeah, this mixtape gets a 10 out of 10. Like I was saying, just chock full of hits. The fact that only 2 songs in some full-blown just the fact that only 2 songs in some full-blown fashion I don't recommend wholesomely. I'd have to say it's a pretty excellent concept. So 10 out of 10 social. The social score in particular, that's kind of a tricky type one. I think I'll give the social score, not really sure. I think I'll give the social score like a 10 out of 10 also. It's just kind of the concept. This is kind of on the fly as far as trying to think of what to give it. I would have to say has some blistering appeal about it, has a number of hits. I kind of look after it. Maybe the social score will be slighted just because of the fact that it doesn't have a lot of nightclub blitz and just overall pizzazz. I mean, it does have some songs like Fresh, You Ain't Fly, and I Can't Help It, some of those type weekend type appeal of songs like Top Back and What You Know and some of those type ones. But I had to say, for the most part, this is a more driven type project. This is once again some hustle, get stuff done, pitches like that, standard errand running, get things taken care of, get your ducks in a row type music as far as pitches like that kind of happen. Just kind of the concept of it with like some in between type lady songs, pitches like that, some standard localized type fare to standard day activity. Does have some summer heat on here. This does feel like a springtime, summertime type heater as far as that particular pitch kind of goes. It's a little bit in between type stuff. Some car drivers type one, some good PSC songs on top of that, some good night outing type fare. I would also feel like Old School is a pretty good nightclub song just without T.I. on there. So it does have some heat as far as pitches like that. And this actually has way more new songs on this particular project than like a standard Gangsta Grillz tape from like the 2000s. So to that end, it's definitely a classic getting 12 new songs, especially out of 2006, as opposed to just like 3 or 4 or 5 like most Gangsta Grillz, when most of them are more instrumentals being rapped to and pitches like that. So yeah, I just would say it's a classic. I mean, there's just plenty of good moments, despite the fact that it's kind of more balanced, doesn't have as many blistering nightclub type hits, but it does have plenty of good just overall social outings and pitches like that. Just some good appeal in this conduct of just socializing and out and about. In terms of the future, like T.I.'s been kind of quiet in recent. In terms of the future, T.I.'s been kind of quiet in recent times. He hasn't put out like a project since like 2018 or 2020. I don't know if he dropped in 2020. He might have dropped in 2020 or 2022. It's been a while since I really paid full blown attention, but he's been saying for a good while that he might retire as far as pitches like that kind of happen. There are plenty more T.I. projects to get to. I just found a few more that I want to get to in recent times, and some of these are mixtapes that just don't have a lot talked about, so I definitely want to get to some of these. It's a pretty bona fide type project here. Like I said, this is a classic mixtape. It's blistering appeal, real clever concept. I'm glad that T.I. just didn't get pissed off and actually put this out as like a free project as opposed to getting mad and just scrapping the album or pitches like that like some folks would do. It's kind of the concept. It's too bad that like Eminem didn't compile like the encore songs that got leaked for encore and make that like a free mixtape, something like that. But it's definitely pretty blistering. Because yeah, T.I. probably spent like a good $500,000 or 100,000, 300,000, 800,000 bucks trying to make this particular album. So it's just a good concept that these wound up being free. Good definite appeal for that. So yeah, classic mixtape, score 10 out of 10. Do recommend it, and I would have to say I'm going to get to some more of these.